Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Happy Thursday to you. Taking a look at BNB. Got a lot of requests for this one recently asking how low can it go? It's trying to do the limbo and effectively try to understand what we can do to kind of circumvent any potential losses. Obviously, when's the bouncing point if there is any, and how much lower could it go as a worst case scenario. Okay, we're going to cover all that and much more. And obviously, if you are new to the channel, bear in mind, I am not a financial advisor, but I really just love teaching people to trade. This is my full-time job, and I can tell you that I've been trading for over 17 years. It's been an awesome experience, and I've had tremendously better experience working with my community members. So if you want to become a community member, cryptocash.tech is a site, link down below. Recommend registering sooner than later so you can essentially benefit from the lower price point getting grandfathered in, because first year we are adjusting the prices there. We did take some profits here recently, about 103% yesterday from a 16-day swing trade for Bitcoin, which is very, very nice. But more important, our community members are just killing it right now. So well done, Zach, one of my awesome admins, mechanical investor. Look at this, 114%, albeit 125x, not necessarily recommending that as potential leverage, but they're using small position sizes, so it's okay. Same thing here with Philly, of course, one of my best traders. Again, the list goes on, but these are all folks you can interact with and consistently benefit from in the community. So that's really cool, awesome opportunity there. So I'm super happy to be able to work with you all. Very last thing, of course, $10,000 prize pool monthly from Bitget. Make sure you use the link in the description below. If you're in the States, you will need to use a VPN. I offer a discount for that as well through my referral link. And just make sure that you're trading with the best exchange possible. And this is the best one, honestly, in my personal opinion. But again, you do need a VPN. Make sure you select other for country when you get registered. So here's the thing with BNB. It's on the downhill, right? We need to kind of update Fibonacci retracement levels. Well, actually, though, those look good, but we do need to update some trend lines and kind of see what's going on here. So generally speaking, obviously, we're no longer ascending in this trend. We are still descending on this trend here. So we're going to go ahead and stretch this out a little bit and kind of go from there. So we're going to go ahead and keep it there. You can see it's hit all these perfect candle wicks here and just keeps on trending down. Now keep in mind, a lot of this is based on fundamentals. There is some pretty significant news on BNB, which may or may not be correct recently, right? The whole FTX thing coming into play. There's a lot of strange stuff coming on and interesting stuff. I personally don't feel like that's the case, because Binance has been pretty legitimate over the years, and they are, the biggest for a reason. But again, you never truly know. So minus all the fundamentals, because again, the price action should not be disintegrating right now the way that it is. Because again, BNB is typically a very strong coin. So if you negate all of that, from a fundamental standpoint, it's hard to say what's going on. From a technical standpoint, we can kind of see that we are descending in this trend. Lower highs are consistently being printed, and we got to expect the price to continue lower before it comes back up. Now, what we want to look at is some overextension and kind of see what this might look like if it goes down further. So first of all, we do have 30 on the RSI working as potential support. That's trending really close to about 250 or 248, the most recent candle wick low right here and back in November 21st. So I don't know if you remember that, roughly a month ago. It was a pretty bad day for a lot of the market. But if you look historically, BNB has done fairly well and rarely peaks below 30 on the RSI. Not to say it doesn't happen, but it can, right? So we got to expect that. Keep in mind, of course, this was, the worst case scenario. We had a very, very terrible summer. And then last year as well, we also saw some wicks down too. But for the most part, when you see 30 on the RSI from BNB, you typically see the price coming up from there, okay? So just bear that in mind. The likelihood of the bottom being in is fairly high. But if that is not the case, what is the next level here, right? So let's just say 250 doesn't hold as a round number. We do have potential of roughly 230, 220, and a handful of other price points. Why don't we do this here as well? Take a quick look at the most recent low, because that really helps us understand where we're at there. And that does kind of reaffirm that 180 is a pretty significant support level. So if, in fact, the price does continue to progress that low, we could see 180 as the worst case scenario in the immediate future. Okay, again, that's based on this guy here being one of the lowest points that the BNB has gone. Okay, so it's pretty close to that Fibonacci retracement level. We can just say round number 180, it's like 181, 182, but 180 should be the lowest point in which we'll see it. Again, that's the worst case scenario. I'm not saying it's going to do that. But if it does, that would probably be the worst case, considering that's the most recent low. And that's, again, earlier this year, back in June 18th, 2022. Okay, so again, that's the worst case. But hypothetically, we shouldn't see that, because the fact that RSI is coming down, there's a strong likelihood we're going to see a support range in this area. So we'll probably see a strong likelihood of a support right in the 250 range, where the price action consolidates and then potentially legs up. The reason I feel that is because we are overextended to the downside. We think we hit an 8 or a 9 recently on TD sequential. There's the 8, and now we're down to a 4. So hypothetically, worst case scenario, we've got 5 more days of bearish continuation and then another leg up. So what could happen, we could see 5 more days of bearish continuation, bouncing off of 250 for an effective double bottom, and then the price action continues higher from there. Okay, so again, it's not a guarantee, of course, by any stretch, but further downside makes more sense, but downside past 250 seems less likely. Again, because we're hitting this overexhausted state on multiple indicators. Same thing here as well. We have plenty of room to grow, don't get me wrong, but generally speaking, this is continuing to increase. So until it doesn't, we need to expect it to continue lower. Okay. Now, for those of you who are in the long position that we opened fairly recent, I'm holding it open personally because I feel BNB will recover. It's done very well for itself whenever it gets overextended, and it tends to bounce back pretty nice. So to me, based on its history, I think it's worth leaving open. Again, I only had less than 5% position sizing in that trade. You got to recognize that if you're doing more than 5% and you're using leverage, you're doing it wrong because you're going to liquidate yourself quickly, especially with cross margin. Now, I'm going to incorporate a video soon with cross margin versus isolated margin in my trading academy for my premium members, just to ensure you understand kind of the difference there, because I think there's kind of some misunderstandings there. But regardless, cross leverage will effectively pull from your entire portfolio, and isolated will liquidate you at 100% in either direction. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at there for BNB on the daily. I think we're looking fairly positive in a not so positive way, if that makes any sense, right? We're getting closer to the tentative bottom. And again, Bitcoin kind of feels like it wants to come down a little lower, but it shouldn't come down tremendously lower, right? And in turn, we shouldn't experience too much more. Now, keep in mind here, we have 2 9s on TD sequential from BNB, okay? That's another likelihood of potential turnaround, okay? It's rare to see more than 2 9s on the 4-hour time frame with TD sequential because it really just tells you are extremely overextended. We can see the RSI came well below 70, got very greedy at this point, and the price action recovered to bounce off this next Fibonacci retracement as 275 and down. But the fact that we're losing 263 or 264 range here on Fibonacci implies that somewhere in the range of 250 is a very strong likelihood. Okay, so I think that we'll probably see a little bit further downside. We might consolidate sideways throughout the weekend, and then another leg down as well. Excuse me. There we go. And basically just, one of those situations where it's probably going to continue lower, but it shouldn't, if that makes any sense. So to me, we're probably going to see range-bound activity probably within the next week between 250 and 260 is a round number, right in that range there, that Fibonacci retracement level, that lower level. But at this point here, we're bouncing off 30 potentially on the RSI, so this could be a potential for a decent little bounce. Could very well be another dead cat, but generally speaking, we're looking at something like that, okay? So could see a slight recovery, but again, shouldn't expect a massive bounce back. Again, basing this on fundamentals and technicals. Technical standpoint, it seems likely we're going to see a recovery soon. From a fundamental standpoint, I don't think that all the news and all the craziness will be debunked immediately. It takes a little while, and unfortunately people in cryptocurrency tend to buy off of emotion, fear, hype, and all that stuff when it shouldn't even factor in at all. Okay, so that's causing a lot of nonsensical stuff. People are transferring funds out of their Binance accounts at crazy numbers because of just what they hear. You got to keep in mind they're also transferring money in too, so it kind of washes itself out. Be careful who you listen to. That being said though, the 4-hour time frame is overextended. There's no doubt about that. We can see that pretty clear as day. 1 hour, I'm very curious about this and what we're looking at for overextension if we have any. So we hit a 9 previously, sideways, retrace all the way down to an 8, got a reset, came up to another 8, and then back down to a 9 after hitting a 7 previously. So we're at an 8 right now. Man, there's just a really, really good chance we're going to see the price bounce back soon. Again, when I say bounce back, I'm not talking about a strong green candle straight upwards. We're just talking about a slight recovery. This does look like a double bottom once more on the smaller and larger time frames. So I do feel like if we don't see the price come up here, we're definitely going to come down lower, hit 248, and then essentially bounce off that point. So I'm going to consider adding to my position or entering around 250 range. I think that'd be appropriate, and maybe just setting an alert for that. So what I'll do is I'll set my alert about 252 in that range, and then once I get the notification, I'll reevaluate and make sure that's good and worth entry. But the 1 hour is definitely overextended as well. So we got an overextension on 2 out of 3 time frames, both consistent 9s. At least plus 2 or more 9s. So that tells us that we are absolutely looking for a bounce back relatively soon. But again, you don't want to stack the cards against yourself, right? Ichimoku Cloud's telling us that if you have a short position, you want to leave it open. Conversion lines below the baseline, good momentum, we're well below the cloud. So there's really no confirmation you have to take entry at this point. So don't just buy the dip because it's a dip, okay? That's what a dip will do. You don't want to do that. You want to essentially wait for confirmation. So for me, confirmation is going to come in a few different forms. More consolidation at this lower price point with the lagging span clearing the price action for one. Second of all, we want the conversion line over the baseline, giving us that positive momentum, that bouncing point. And what we want to see is we're likely going to see a 4-hour MACD convergence as well to kind of reiterate that confirmation for us. So if we have a MACD convergence in the 4-hour where the price action swings in an upward fashion, let me go ahead and show you what I mean by that. And then we see that concurrent on the cloud, then that's going to be a positive sign. So hypothetically, when this eventually comes back up, whenever that is, this is the inception point. That's when you take entry. That's the key. Okay, that's generally the concept for good swing trading. Again, you don't ever want to use just that indicator, but we've already identified where we're extended, right? So that makes perfect sense to be able to buy that type of scenario with other factors contributing. Contributing factors, again, is to be above the cloud. We're not going to be above that naturally if we go sideways for at least a couple of days. So to me, I'm going to maybe consider an entry on BNB for long, perhaps this weekend or after, once I have confirmation and understanding more so where we're at. Right now, a little premature in that sense. So if you have currently a long position open and it's a small position size like I recommend, you should be able to leave it open, no problem. It will recover in time. BNB is a strong coin. We just got to kind of get through this crazy nonsensical stuff that doesn't make any sense at this point that it's happening. Again, I don't like to talk about fundamentals because of the fact that it's a lot of it's opinion based, but honestly, based on BNB's track record or Binance, I think they're going to be just fine and they'll recover in time. You just can't expect it to recover immediately because they've taken a bit of a hit, but every time they come down this low, it always comes back up again. Okay, so that's the natural ebbs and flows of Binance. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bounce off 248, 250 here in the relative near future. All right, that's pretty much it. We'll keep an eye on us. Thanks again for watching and joining me here. If you want to, again, become a better trader, cryptocash.tech. Lock in that rate before the year is over. Again, everyone that's currently a member, you're grandfathered in, don't worry about it. But if you start after the first year, you'll be subject to the new prices, and none of this is going to be significantly larger. It's just going to be a different payment structure, and it might be appropriate to get more benefit now for less, right? All right, hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.